In this video, we'll make a WPF translator app using DeepL that lets users translate the text they input into multiple languages. Keep watching until the end of the video where we'll translate documents like PDFs. Hey guys and welcome to Tool Coding. To save time, I've gone ahead and set up some of the UI controls we'll need to make our translator app, and I'll take you through those in just a moment. All the code in this video is available from the link in the description down below. I'll be writing this in C#, but there's a VB.NET translation available from the link as well. Before we start, we'll need to install the DeepL SDK that we'll be using to translate text. To do this, go to Tools in Visual Studio, NuGet Package Manager, and then Manage NuGet Packages for solution, making sure this plugin is installed in your project. So let's start building the core features of the translator app. In the XML codes, I've added in two combo boxes that will let the user choose the source and target languages. There'll also be an option to detect the source language, and the rest of the options will be loaded in the code behind after getting all available languages from DeepL. Down below we have two text boxes. The translated output is set to read only here, so the user can't edit it. And lastly we have three buttons that we'll be making use of later on. Let's take a look at the code behind. I've added in the import for the DeepL plugin, and I've also added in some global variables such as the API key, translator instance, glossary ID, and open file dialogues that we'll be using afterwards. In the constructor, when the application starts, we'll want to set our API key that I've saved to a file for now. You can get yours by signing up to a free account on the DeepL website linked in the description. Once we set the API key, we can create a new translator instance with the key, and we'll be using this throughout the video to translate text and documents. We can start by getting a list of supported languages for both the source and target. Because this is done asynchronously so as not to block the current thread, we'll use a continue with callback that will execute once we have the list of languages. For each language, we'll add a combo box item with the display name and language code that we'll refer to later on. It's important to wrap this code in a dispatcher.invoke call, because otherwise we'll get an error as this will be running on a different thread to the UI. Let's then do a similar thing for the target languages, this time selecting the first item by default. Before we work on the actual translating functionality, let's write a quick helper function to get the selected source and target languages. The language codes for each will be in the tag property of the selected combo box item. Bear in mind that if the user selects detect language, the tag will be null as intended. We'll move on to the click event handler for the translate button now. In the try catch block, we'll first get the chosen source and target languages using the function above, and then we'll disable the translate button while the translation is taking place. Then we'll need to call translate text async on our translator instance to translate the text the user has input. You can additionally add some options in here, such as the formality if you want a more formal or informal input. You can set preserve formatting to true to ensure the structure of the text stays the same. You can set tag handling to HTML or XML if you're translating these documents, and there are many more, so I'd recommend taking a look at the documentation for the full range. We then use the text property to get the translation. If there's an error, we'll show a message box, and whatever happens, we'll want to enable the translate button again afterwards. Let's run the application and see if it works. I can type something in, choose one of the languages here, and then click translate. And there we go, we got the translation. Now the main translation functionality is working, let's move on to glossaries next. We can create a glossary if we want words to be translated in a certain way. I've got the CSV file for Italian translations, so that the word hello is translated as salve, and the word azul is left as is. We'll let the user upload a CSV file like this using the upload glossary button, and so in the click event handler, we'll use the open file dialog we saw earlier to let the user choose a CSV file. In the try catch block, we'll first read the CSV, create a unique ID for the glossary, and get our chosen languages. We then call create glossary from CSV async, passing in the ID, languages, and CSV file. Not all languages support glossaries, so it's worth checking the documentation first. It's also worth noting that the detect language option can be used for glossaries, so in case the user has selected this option in the UI, we'll default it to English. Because a glossary is only meant for one language pair, we'll be disabling the combo boxes while a glossary is being applied to prevent any accidental changes, and we'll change the text of the button to remove glossary. Let's add some message boxes next. And then lastly, if the button has the text remove glossary, we'll need to reset the glossary ID and UI back to what we had previously. Feel free to extend this implementation by letting the user manage multiple glossaries in the UI, but for now let's add our glossary ID to the translation options up here so that it can be applied when we click translate. Let's test it out. If I translate this into Italian first without the glossary, let's see what we get. And now I'll apply the glossary CSV file I showed you earlier. And there we are, the glossary works, and we can click on Remove Glossary to reset the UI. Let's finish off by translating documents now. DeepL supports translating documents in different formats like PDFs, Word documents and PowerPoints. I'll demonstrate translating as PDF in this video, but the process is pretty much the same for any format. Let's use another Open File dialog and get the source and target languages in a try-catch block first. We'll then need to provide a file name to save the translated document to. I'm going to just append the word translated after an underscore to the original file name, and you can do that like so. I'll just disable the UI while the translation is taking place, before calling translate document async, passing in a file info instance of the original and translated file names, along with the languages, making sure to default any null source value to English. Similar to before, we can specify some translation options like providing the formality and glossary ID. Let's add in a couple of message boxes and then make sure to enable the UI again. Now we'll run the application and translate the example PDF document. And there we are, the document was translated. If you're looking for some example apps to use DeepL translation, I've created a suite of desktop and Android apps that are all open source, and I've also made a language insight built to 11T that's 100% free. Check them both out in the description down below. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest from Azul coding. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.